to the Tea and a Butty podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the British tabloid media and, by extension, Piers Morgan. Yes.
I just hear everyone turning it off. Oh, I'm not listening to this podcast.
Nah, I've had enough of them. I'm not listening. I'm done with that.
We just thought, coming off of last week's discussion about the Harry and Meghan interview, we should talk about what exactly makes the British tabloids and
the
just,
worst in the
and
world.
the British media the most definitely the most hated anyway.
They've been hated for years, and they've been the toughest as well. It's like no holds barred from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, you see other, you say, oh, well, media's like that everywhere, but I don't think it really is in the US.
I don't know. Well, first of all, when they say, oh, the British media, they're talking mostly about the tabloids, aren't they?
Yeah, the tabloids, which are mainly the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, Daily Mirror, and the Sun. Yeah. And years ago, it would have been the News of the World. They were probably the worst.
Because over here, the main ones I can think of are the National Enquirer, the Globe, I think. They have the Star.
We had the Daily Star, too.
I think ours is just called the Star, though. I think. You see, that's the thing. I don't even know what ours are called. We have a bunch of them. I mean, you see them when you're in line at the grocery store.
But not many people read them.
You read them in line at the grocery store, and that's about it, you know.
People buy them in the UK.
The headlines. The funny thing about it is, even over here in America, our headlines are about the royal family very frequently. Yeah,
that's true. The National Enquirer is always Charles, eight days to live, or Camilla's cheating on him, or, whatever. It's just some kind of
Princess Diana's ghost spotted on the lawn of,
the White House
Kensington
or whatever.
Palace or something, you know.
It's some crazy, and that's mainly what it is. Because we've got that in the UK too, like Take a Break and Woman's Own and all this kind of these little because that's what the National Enquirer and the Globe are. They're kind of tiny, but these are like red top tabloid newspapers that are really like sensationalism, at its finest.
I think over here,
what they call them is the red tops, mainly the Sun, the Mirror, and the News of the World, because they've got a red top.
But the thing is over here, I think we're taught from a pretty early age, particularly because the headlines are so ridiculous. Like, oh, Elvis spotted at local diner, years after his death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that kind of stuff is just, that's just ridiculous.
I think we're taught pretty early on that it's a load of crap, our tabloids, so you just don't pay any real attention to anything.
The problem with the Mirror...
It's interesting. It's interesting reading the headlines while you're standing in line to check out at the supermarket, but that's it. You're not going to be tempted to buy one.
Those are complete and utter fabrication headlines,
And I think that's part of the problem is... In Britain, the line is really blurred, isn't it?
It's blurred.
Is it real news or not?
Is it real news or not? Yes. Yeah. Because the tabloids have been such a thing for the working class in Britain. Yeah. That's what they're generally marketed towards them. Yeah. Whereas the broadsheets like The Guardian and the Daily Telegraph, they're for the more cultured and refined and middle class person. Yeah. Whereas like the Sun and the Daily Mirror... That's what the working bloke reads in the cafe, when he's on his break from building and whatever, drinking his builder's tea and he's reading the Sun, know. And it's like, that's what, and they're just going, agree with that. It's like the total, like, right wing, and they've all got a political affiliation, most of them have. Mm-hmm. The Daily Mirror, the Daily Mail has been right-wing since its inception, I think, since 1896, and now it's become this like online tabloid media frenzy of terrible journalism. Absolutely terrible, because it's like you always get that kind of like celebrity going, who is writing these columns for the Daily Mail? Who is writing these articles online for the Daily Mail? Yeah, because it says, yesterday I was spotted with, someone else in Whole Foods, and eating this and I wasn't supposed to be there and whatever, and I'm just like, I was in my house yesterday, and they're using old photos from, like, a pap shop weeks ago,
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Daily Fail, as they like to call it now, because they always fail at, like, reporting actual news. It's just, like, sensationalist gossip most of the time.
Yeah.
And, they get, like, reality stars and people who used to be, like, on TV selling their story, just to get a bit of fame, like, oh, I was cheated on by my ex-boyfriend and I found out through his watch, which was someone else's story. Yeah. I read that recently on somewhere and I was just like, oh. But the Sun, they're probably the most hated newspaper in Britain now because the News of the World was cancelled. And that was the oldest one as well. That started in 1843.
Isn't there something like...
And it was cancelled in 2011 because of the phone hacking scandal.
Wasn't there something, the News of the World with the Beatles, like News of the Weird?
News of the Weird, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen it, News of the Weird, somewhere, and it's like a play on News of the World.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember where that was now. But yeah, I didn't realize they were that old.
The News of the World, actually, in the 60s... they were accused of being part of the establishment trying to bring down the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all this, because they were avidly reporting on their drug-fueled parties and all this kind of stuff. And the people who were defending the Rolling Stones and all these people who were because they got arrested, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, for drugs and all. And they were like, oh, it's the news of the world.
Yeah.
They're getting in here and they're trying to take us down and it's all their fault.
Yeah.
And, they eventually were brought down themselves by the phone hacking scandal.
Yeah.
Because, as we said, we're going to talk about Piers Morgan in a minute. He was editor of the News of the World in the mid-90s.
It kind of goes along with what Megan was saying in the interview, wasn't it? That
seedy journalism.
I think that was a clip, that was an outtake clip, actually, that they only put on YouTube.
It was Oprah's extras, yeah.
Where she said, they create the news.
They create the news. They don't report the news.
Right.
And it's like, what they're doing is, well, the Daily Mail especially now, they're just kind of like going with something that sounds semi-plausible and putting a photo with it and saying, yeah, it's true. Meghan Markle, whatever,
But they dig stuff up. They hold on to stuff only to release it when
later,
it's most opportune.
Oh, yeah.
When it'll cause the most damage. Or or when it'll make the biggest splash, and it's like, that's not news then, Yeah. if you've got information and you're holding on to it to your own benefit, I mean, that's not reporting,
I mean, they're damaging kind of headlines for, like, public reputation, shall we say.
Yeah.
Like, The Sun, Freddie Starr ate my hamster. I'm actually not sure that was a headline from The Sun or the News of the World or maybe the Daily Star or something like that, but it was just, like, a ridiculous story that they put front page so everybody saw it and was like, oh, did he eat a hamster?
Yeah.
And, he's dead now, Freddie Starr. He was a comedian. And, that story followed him for years, when it should have been just like it's just some idiot, it's just like some crazy myth.
Is that something like Ozzy Osbourne biting the heads of bats
something like that, yeah. It was like someone came to them and said, oh, Freddie Starr, he ate my hamster. He put it between two slices of bread and ate it alive. No. And it's just like, it's like, and, he used to say, years later, people would come up to me and go, did you really eat a hamster? And I'd say, give me 50 quid and I'll tell you. And they'd give me 50 quid and I'd say, no. That's it, But it's just like, these kind of things. But they also had, like, damaging headlines. I mean, the Mirror.
I mean, that could be damaging.
That was damaging to him. Yeah, that would, I mean, his career never really recovered after that, I don't think. But I mean, like the Daily Mail and all that. They're online now. They've got these crazy headlines. But back in, like, the 90s, you'd see it. Their front pages would be full of stuff like... Well, going back to, like, I think it might have been the Mirror, who reported on the Harry at a party with the Nazi garb on.
Oh,
with the swastika.
Yeah.
And he was 18. And of course that went all over the front pages. And that was probably Piers Morgan. Funnily, the staunch defender of the royal family.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, you know, it was probably Piers Morgan who had something to do with that. Because I think he might have been editor of the Mirror at the time. And I mean, it was news, but again, it's like sensationalized news.
Yeah.
The tabloids.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's avidly read, you know, it's like the gossip rags.
Yeah.
The Sun is terrible because they sided with like the government during the Hillsborough disaster, and you'll have to look that up because I won't go into it here. And they blamed the fans of the football fans, the Liverpool fans, for the crush at Hillsborough instead of like police protection or whatever it was. And ever since then, the Sun has become like, nah, we're not carrying copies of that anymore. Yeah, it's like, that's terrible, you know, to blame fans for something that was not their fault. Yeah. So, you know, the Sun will never shine in Liverpool, again. And, you know, the Daily Mirror, it's kind of like, and the Sun are quite right-wing anyway, because, you know, you can always tell their political thing, you know, like, oh, these lazy people on benefits are getting so-and-so, and we should get them all back to work, those lazy buggers, and, you know, whatever, you know, it's all very Tory party line, you know.
And what determines that, whether a paper is right-wing or
I'm presuming the editor Rupert Murdoch owns the Sun. He also owns the Daily Express. Oh no, it's not the Daily. I think he doesn't own the Daily Mail. He owned the News of the World, but he had to close that down because of the phone hacking scandal. I think he owns the Times too. But yeah, the Sun is extremely right wing, and that's like where he prints all the crazy falsehoods. Yeah. And I think it was Johnny Depp recently tried to have the Sun sued for his story with Amber Heard and everything, you know, saying, oh yeah, you're defaming me and, you know, you're printing lies. Yeah. But it's just one of those things with the red tops, you know, it's just, take it with a grain of salt. Right. But not many do. They just kind of swallow it and go, oh, that's right. I read in the paper today that, you know, Meghan Markle lied.
What are the respected, like, real newspapers in Britain then?
Well, the Guardian, the Telegraph. I mean, there's probably British people laughing right now as I'm saying this because they're like, oh, it's respectable. There's no newspaper that's respectable. Yeah. They're the broadsheets. And the Guardian is like centre-left. The Daily Telegraph is quite right-wing, conservative.
I mean, because the thing is we have, we have tabloids and then we have
broadsheets,
newspapers. Yeah,
yeah. The broadsheets are what we call them. The Guardian, the Telegraph, and the Times.
And so the tabloids all report ridiculous things. Although every once in a while you do hear a story having been broke by. Inquirer, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they were the first ones to report this, and it's true.
And it's true, yeah. It's quite a sensational story, but it's also like full of fact. you know, at the end of the day, it's not Freddie Starr ate my hamster. You know,
but then you have the New York Times and USA Today and what is it, the Dallas Morning Herald and stuff like that, and those are like some of the bigger newspapers in the country. And you still have people saying, oh, well, they're full of crap, they're full of crap, they're full of crap.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's a little bit like...
I mean, we have satirical news magazines too, like The Private Eye. Yeah. Which is edited by...
Which is like The Onion.
Which is kind of like The Onion, but it's more politically charged. And it also, you know, it's a satirical magazine, and, you know, they kind of hold people in the media to account. Like, for instance, you know, we're talking about Piers Morgan. He was lampooned in it all the time. They used to call him the boy Morgan, first of all. Then they started calling him Piers Moron. Yeah. And, of course, that wound him up. Because, you know, it's Piers Morgan. Yeah. Everything winds him up these days. But it's, you know, it's that kind of thing and it played out on TV in Have I Got News for You, because Ian Hislop was the editor.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, because we started calling you that, you sent photographers to my house and had my home watched. And reporters were following me around, looking to dig up,
just to find something.
And they were calling my acquaintances, offering 50 quid to tell them like a story.
Yeah.
So we could print it.
Yeah.
And I think Morgan said, "No, I haven't sent anyone to your house. I don't know what you're talking about." And it just kind of escalated with him, because it was like, "Yeah, you're just a seedy journalist, Piers."
I guess Piers Morgan never hosted Have I Got News for You?
No. This was back in the Angus Dayton days. Because at one point it was getting so serious, I think Angus Dayton said, do you want to go out and have a fight? It's just like...
Yeah.
And because Clive Anderson was on the show at the time, he goes, the last time I was rude to you, you sent photographers to my doorstep.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, you won't... And Piers Morgan goes, oh, you won't see them this time.
What does that mean? They'll be better hidden. And it's like, the audience didn't like him. They booed him, and they were just like, they were firmly in support of Hislop, because nobody in Britain seems to like Piers Morgan. What was that on, then?
Have I Got News for You?
Oh. He was just a panelist?
He was a panelist, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they had him on, and then their feud kind of escalated after that, Kind of like, with...
Well, let's talk about Piers Morgan then, because we know him in America because he was on... Well, he competed in The Celebrity Apprentice, and I think won the season he was in, actually.
Yeah, he won it.
Yeah.
Trump called him evil, obnoxious, and, greedy.
And I'm not sure...
All the things that Trump likes.
And I'm not sure whether he was on that season before or after he was a judge on... what was it, X Factor?
America's Got Talent.
America's Got Talent,
and he was a judge on Britain's Got Talent. Oh, I don't know. His agent must have been good, is all I can say.
I think they brought him over here as...
replacement to Larry King.
Figure, and so I think people did sort of like him.
So
in
that gained him some reputation, but
because he was a bit rude, people liked Simon Cowell because he was brutally honest. So Piers, I think, was supposed to be kind of doing the same type of thing, and I think people did like him up until that point, which is probably why he got the gig on Celebrity Apprentice. And then, like you just said, he then hosted
Piers
his
Morgan
own
Live.
Show.
Yeah. Which was like Larry King. He was drafted in as like Larry King's replacement on Piers Morgan Live, which didn't last as long as he thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I was like, Piers Morgan Live, why is he getting so much attention over here? But then I was like, oh yeah, they don't know him like we know him.
No, yeah, so tell us about him, because he's been going quite a long time in
He
Britain,
started his career in 1989 as a seedy journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he still is. It's like, basically, he was reporting for The Sun. He was a reporter on The Sun, tabloid reporter, gossiping about every celebrity under the sun who was there. And then he somehow managed to wangle his way up in News Corps, which is with Rupert Murdoch. And I think he became editor of the News of the World then in 1994. Then he went on to edit the Daily Mirror, and that's when his career in the press, in tabloid journalism, started to kind of derail, because there was the Abu Ghraib torture scandal. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
It was just after the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was exposed that some members of the US Army were torturing and human rights violations. They were taking photos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Came out, it was a huge scandal, and several of the officers were arrested and tried as war criminals and all that. I don't know what happened, but there was apparently a hoax about it. Oh, the British Army do the same thing. And there was these photos and everything like that. And the Daily Mirror published them under Piers Morgan, and it quickly turned out they were fake. They weren't taken in Iraq. They weren't these were just people dressed up in like army garb.
Yeah.
And with they'd paid like 50 quid to like local immigrants who looked vaguely Iraqi or something.
Oh, yeah.
To pretend to be prisoners.
Okay.
Just to, like, smear the British Army or something, you know, or something like that. And it was like a hoax, and Piers Morgan refused to apologise for it. Oh no, he refused to admit they were fake, so he was sacked. Because it came out, the British Army were like, yeah, this is not us.
Yeah.
We've investigated, and the MOD has investigated, and, you know, this is not us. The Mirror is absolutely lying, and, you know, we will bomb the crap out of that place.
But
you, Piers.
But I mean, if he wouldn't admit to it, could it possibly be that it was true and they just covered it up? No,
they were crude. They were pretty crude fakes because they came out with damning evidence. I haven't seen it, but it was apparently damning. Everybody believes it.
Yeah,
respected people and people who have got, you know, who aren't just like going, oh yeah, that's probably what it is. You know, it's probably fake. Okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It was true.
Yeah.
It wasn't true. It was all fake. You know, it was shot in the northeast of England or something.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's true, then how could he have ever continue to have a job after that? Like, who would have hired him?
He got sacked by the Mirror, and then he went on to like present. He went on TV, and people were like, "Why is this guy still on TV? Why is this guy on TV now?"
Yeah,
you know, it's like he started doing Britain's. I guess he must have come over here then.
Oh yeah,
just after that, and that's when he was doing America's Got Talent.
I thought he came over here after the phone scandal, the phone hacking scandal.
Oh yeah, that started coming out just afterwards.
Actually, he might have already been here during that. I'm thinking.
Yeah,
now.
I think he was. Yeah,
because it was quite a while ago now that he.
Because he was sacked in 2004 on the Mirror. That was kind of the end of his like editorship of anything. Yeah. Tabloid, because he was like, yeah. And he refused to admit it. He says, oh, it was going on. No one believes me. Blah, whatever he said, you know?
Yeah.
And or he refused to admit it and said, oh, it's very similar to what's going on in Iraq. So it was like, yeah, you knew they were fake and you published them anyway.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to admit it. Because it's like, yeah, you knew, Piers. Then he went on America's Got Talent. And so he was over here then. And then Hugh Grant and celebrities started taking Rupert Murdoch and everyone to court over our phones are being hacked.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way that you could have found out that I was having an affair with someone because we kept it we kept it between us.
Yeah.
And the only way you could have figured out, because you were printing like, oh, because it broke when Sven-Goran Eriksson, who was manager of Arsenal. No, he wasn't manager of Arsenal. Who was he manager of? I don't know. He was a manager of a football club. Oh, England. That's it, England. He was manager of the England team. It broke that he was having an affair with Eureka Johnson, who was a TV presenter in Britain.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, how did they know that?
Yeah,
you know, it's
we've never gone anywhere in public
together. Never gone in public together, you know, and it's kind of like, if we met, it would have looked, you know, entirely plausible.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they know that? And how did they know? And they were printing, like, lines from, like, voicemail. Oh, she was saying, I love you, or whatever they were saying.
Yeah.
They were just like, how were they... Is it you going to the president? No, it's not me. It's not you.
Probably under, so
someone's hacking...
a pal source... what do they say? A source close to the... Yeah.
A source close to them. Nobody knows this.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then it would come out like, oh, I think Daniel Craig, you know, because he was married to Rachel Weisz at the time. Sienna Miller called Daniel Craig and said, I love you to him.
Oh,
in a voicemail.
Yeah. And
they reported on that as like they were having an affair and stuff. And it was like, yeah, we're not having an affair. We've just been close friends for years. And she said, I love you in a voicemail.
Yeah.
It's like the only way you could have known that is if you'd hacked my phone.
Yeah.
And then I think Charlotte Church got involved because she said, oh, I've had my phone hacked too, because these stories were being reported. And it's just like, yeah, the only way they could have known is if they were listening in on the call or they hacked my phone to... thing. And
look at text messages and stuff, yeah.
The editor of the News of the World and other journalists were arrested because it was criminal offence to do that.
Yeah.
And they were sent down for it. But Piers Morgan was asked to give evidence, and he says, "Oh, I had no idea it was going on. I didn't even," and it's like, yeah, you did. Oh, and I've never knowingly published anything that was from a phone hack.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you clearly have, but there's no evidence to suggest that you knew that you were directly involved in it.
Yeah.
But the judge was like, yeah, it's his, he was just joking about it as if like, this goes on in the press,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that's what happens. But yeah,
there was no one able to testify. He gave us the order.
So that's why he didn't get into serious trouble for it.
Right.
Because he's like, oh, I never knowingly did it. So he was very clever with, if this is a phone hack, we've got to like make it look like we found it from someone else. Mm-hmm. We found out from someone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, he comes over here then, and he gets Piers Morgan live. And, he thinks he's cock of the walk. He thinks, oh, yeah, I'm breaking America. He's telling everyone this.
Yeah.
And everyone in Britain's like, yeah, get rid of him. Let America have him.
Yeah.
But then, of course, he starts going on about gun control.
Right.
And, of course, being controversial, he had loads of people on there who were like for guns, and he was, because and he just looked like a ham-faced British man ranting about gun control to Americans. Yeah. And so it was like, yeah, he was cancelled then.
Because the thing about Piers Morgan is in Britain he's considered to be quite conservative and quite
He's pretty right-wing. I think he votes Tory. So yeah, and over here, that's what somebody said, a follower said. He's like, it's funny because he was over here ranting about gun control and it was pretty democratic.
Yeah.
But in Britain, he's pretty right-wing,
I think basically he just likes to take the opposing...
He takes the opposing view, and with the Meghan Markle thing, he's gone too far.
Yeah.
And it's got him fired.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he says he left Good Morning Britain.
Yeah.
But we know ITV were like, yeah, we've kind of had it now.
But he's also basically said he'll be back, so...
I think there's
something lined up.
He'll probably pop back up on Sky or something.
Yeah.
Because, I mean...
I think there's supposedly rumors that they're developing a right-wing channel in Britain.
GB News, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's probably going to be the face of that. I mean... for his part, people were like, oh, it's sad that he's gone because at the end of the day, he did hold the government to account when they'd come out with a ridiculous policy or whatever, you know? So he'd hold them to account. But yeah, the Meghan Markle thing was a bridge too far. And he's come off like that with like Madonna and other people too, like he's got a grudge against them because they wronged him somehow.
I mean,
and that's a seedy journalist,
I mean, take away... Well, seedy, yeah. I mean, I think he's proved himself time and time again.
I mean, the whole Meghan Markle, we met up and we had a couple of pints and a couple of... And
okay, let's talk about that in 1 second, because I don't think a lot of Americans know about that. What I was going to say, though, is it is a shame. You take away the phone hacking and the weird faking of the pictures thing, take those away. To just get rid of someone, to just cancel someone because they express a viewpoint that is against what's popular, I do not agree with.
No, I don't agree with that either, because you've got to have an opposing viewpoint. It can't all be flowers and bunny rabbits and everything's wonderful.
We all agree.
There's something going on over there that's a bit fishy. It's like, oh, well, we don't talk about that, Just
we don't want to
just look left and not right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm for that. There's got to be two sides to a debate.
It's like it pisses you off to hear it, but they should.
And it's like you've freedom of speech, as he said, is a hill I'm supposed to die on. But I think they're not getting rid of him for the racism or the freedom of speech or whatever, because he has
They're just sick to death of it.
It's sick to death of him, but I think there's like an element of like, it's kind of weird that you're obsessed with bashing her down.
Yeah,
and it's not,
quickly tell this story, because I didn't know anything about this, and I can't remember.
Well, I didn't know about it until recently either.
Yeah, I can't remember
he's
where
talked
we
about
saw
it.
Yeah,
he a couple of years ago, you know, when she was about to get married,
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle, Piers Morgan came out and says, "Oh yeah, I had a friendship with when she was on Suits. I had a brief friendship with her, and I met her. She
slid into my DMs." He said.
I followed her, and she slid into my DMs and said, "Hello, I'm a big fan." And this is when he would have been on like Piers Morgan, maybe not actually. I think Piers Morgan Live had just been cancelled or something. But you know, I'm a big fan, and she was showing me like previews of upcoming episodes of Suits because I was a fan of Suits.
She was sending me the episodes before they came out.
Yes,
is what he said. Yeah,
and so I was getting all this kind of access, and then she was in London to like meet with her mate Serena Williams because Serena Williams was playing tennis at Wimbledon, and they met up in Piers's favourite pub, and I had a couple of pints. We were getting on like a house on fire, and I put her in a cab. And that cab went to a party where she met Prince Harry.
Yeah.
And then the following night she went out on a solo date with Prince Harry, and then she ghosted me. I never heard from her.
I never heard from her again. And he laughed about it at that time.
He laughed about it at that time, but it was like, yeah, he started, you know, he probably started to try and get that relationship going. Because he's a seedy journalist again. You know, he's trying to get the info.
Yeah.
And she was like ghosting him, not talking to him, whatever. And it's just like, oh, she's a social climber, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, or is it conceivable that Prince Harry or someone in the palace said, have you ever Googled Piers Morgan? You know? Let me just show you.
I don't know how to Google.
Let me just read you something here, Megan. Prince Harry's like, don't ignore all the bad press about my family. Let's take a look at Piers Morgan. You think Piers Morgan's your best mate? He's not. You know,
I mean, to be fair to Piers Morgan, it does sound probably like she just didn't need him anymore.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and you know, but it's like, get over it, Piers. And what's this freaking weird obsession you have with like, oh, Madonna's publicist lied to me. Oh, I hate Madonna.
Yeah. A lot of people hate Madonna, don't they? Look at Elton John, for instance.
Jeremy Clarkson, right? Jeremy Clarkson. He was he was on Top Gear. Top Gear fans will know Jeremy Clarkson.
Right.
He was on Top Gear in the UK, and he's kind of a controversial figure himself in the UK.
Yeah.
At the British Press Awards, he tipped a glass of water or champagne or something over Piers Morgan's head, then punched him in the face 3 times.
What?
And
did anybody film that?
Nobody filmed it. Nobody hacked anybody's phone for it either. No, he's widely known for punching a BBC producer. That's why he got fired off Top Gear, because, you know, he's a bit of a thing. But, you know, I don't like Piers Morgan. It was over something that he'd published about Jeremy Clarkson in the Mirror. You know, it was like, oh, you published that bloody nonsense, and it makes me look like a right, you know.
Yeah, right.
So he punched freaking Piers Morgan in the face 3 times.
Oh my gosh, well, there you go.
Yep. And we'll probably see Meghan doing that before too long.
Goodness.
Although, I mean, it's come out now that she was part of the Ofcom complaints.
Oh,
she was one of them. She was one of the 41,000.
Yeah, she was one.
No, they said that. Yeah. Ofcom said, yeah, she was one of them.
Yeah.
We had someone sifting through and it's like, oh yeah, one here from California.
Oh gosh, they're not even supposed to be watching ITV in California.
She had a VPN, she was watching. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, the whole other side of it is like, let it go, Piers. It's like she used you, you know, that's it, get over it, you know. Yeah. Goodbye, you know. But yeah. On that bombshell. I've had my rant about Piers Morgan.
We have to go. My goodness. Yes.
Goodness.
I think we're all exhausted now.
Yes, I'm gonna take a little nap now, I think.
Thank you guys so much as always for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at Tbutty, TEABUTTY on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Talk to you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.